Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Gooncast. Today I have a spicy guest, Jalapeno. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jalapeno690. I'm been playing Constantiam since about 2018 and Anarchy as a whole from about 2017. I had a stint on 2B2T within that time, but I've since quit that server.
And what was constant when you first joined in 2018? Was that?
Very, very different to what it is now. Back then,
I did read it
there
was
was
difficult.
a lot more bots. Pardon?
I did read it was difficult for you to skip spawn, and there was just a lot of AFKing, like fish grinding, stuff like that. So
yeah,
I know the landscape.
So,
how was it?
spawn was a literal hole, if I remember right now. It was literally a hole. When I did make it into the nether, there was no 0-0. Again, a literal hole. The player base at that time, had just nuked everything. So if you're a new player starting in 2018, it was an absolute shithole,
and the spawn radius probably wasn't too massive. Like I know nowadays you can just kill until you get a decent spawn, but back then probably not as easy.
Yeah.
But
now I think it's something like up to 2,000 blocks.
Yeah, I believe either like 2,500 blocks or just 2,000, but it's a lot easier, I think. I mean, I wasn't playing back then, but I can just assume. And what was your first base like on Constantium?
Oh God.
Was it just a hole in the wall about 7,000 blocks out?
I'll tell you actually my escape story. So if you go on the one of the diagonals, I just can't remember which one it is. I think it's the minus diagonal. There's a player back in 2018 created a diagonal canal. So on 2B2T, you've got the southern canal. On Constantium, we have a southern canal also. But there was a player built a diagonal canal. It's only 4,000 blocks. That's as far out as it reaches. I travelled out it and branched off. Now, I can't remember the chords exactly, but I set up a small farm, a few sheep, a few cows, just basic survival.
Stuff, yeah. And how long were you basing? How long were you basing there for before becoming a fully active Constantium player?
So that was 2018. I played on and off, just logging on to tent crops and stuff, maybe for about a year and a half, a bit of AFK fishing. Then I killed myself, back to spawn, escaped spawn again, done bits of AFK fishing. So nothing really serious. I talked a small bit in chat, but it was more troll stuff, nothing serious, like I said.
Yeah. And then after you ventured off from that base, was it true you became a highway builder? And you just started working on... Go ahead and explain.
So around 2020, 2021, I want to say, I was still very active in the 2B2T community. And I was a member of a group called Builders Haven. It was run by players Spoofer and Beardler of FitMC fame, Block Game Maca, all those type of bases that he was part of the group of. Anyway, we had a base called Bernheim, which FitMC made a video on. He made a grief, him, Kane's Law, and several other older players. So after that, I said, F this. I just, 2B2T by that point was just clout chasing. So when I was playing 2B actively, I was a member of SEG, which is the Spawn Infrastructure Group. but I was also a member of the Southern Canal Corps. So I happened to be talking in the Canal Corps Discord to a player called Heliblade Scraper. So Heliblade said, yeah, I've got a canal on 2B. I said, really? I would love to come and build on it. So I travelled out with very, very, very basic gear to it. I think at that point it was only like 140,000 blocks that I went out.
Yeah.
So I met a player called Cartfinder, and Cartfinder gave me my first kit. So
would you say that's your first friend on Constantiam?
Yeah.
And so how did that relation grow over time?
So Cartfinder gave me my first kit, and we started digging the canal. Shortly after, he told me he was digging the Western Highway to the Netherworld border. So at that point, I think he was only 200,000 blocks out. And again, I met up with him. He gave me the cards to a stash. I got Remy kits.
No.
And yeah, look, it just started off like that. He had what they called then Coolbot, which was a mixture of the Salhack, Cami Blue, and a bot that was specifically made for Constantiam. Personally, at that point, I was using Lambda Client and Highway Tools. Now, Highway Tools and Constantiam don't go hand in hand. So him and I would have dug right throughout the night. Come weekends when I would have been off, my parents used to go crazy. I would have left my computer on the entire night, and him and I just digging away, chipping away, alongside a player called 9733, Numbers Guy, as he's more famously known, and a few other guys. So that's how that relationship started. And yeah, over time, I got to meet more and more players, and slowly, obviously, my name got out there, and I started getting invited to bases. I think the first base I got invited to was the Halloween base. It was either in 2021 or 2022. I can't really remember.
I'm guessing that one has already been griefed and no longer standing.
Oh yeah, griefed
long gone.
a long time ago.
Yeah. And let's see here. So I'm guessing that was like a very peaceful time for you, just digging out the highway, just pretty relaxing overall. And were there any major stresses that were along the way from that?
Not really, to be honest with you. Constantiam then and Constantiam now are chalk and cheese. You were talking the average player base was maybe 19 to 20 players, give or take, because you were still in 1.12 at that point. And obviously a lot of players were getting tired. And that's one of the reasons why I left 2PT also, was because it was forever stuck on 1.12. And, you can only go to the well so many times, if you get what I mean, before you start getting tired.
Have you considered joining 2B again, or are you just full-time cons player now? And
funny you asked that. About a month and a half ago, a very good friend of mine, Maximum Chris, he's the leader of Dawn Fuhrer on Constantiam. He floated the idea with me about coming back to 2B, and basing there in a new Dawn Fuhrer base of his. So I bought priority queue. I travelled to the base, but the spark wasn't there.
No, there's major differences.
There's no spark.
Yeah, and there also is a major difference in just the communities themselves, to where 2B is just a massive kind of. I've never personally played it, but I can imagine it's just annoying having to wait in queue for a few hours, hop on, and then there's just major differences. That's why Constantiam, I think, is a lot more relaxing. Kind of smaller community, but I'm not too acquainted with all the different groups on Constantiam, but hopefully I can get more into those. And
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look,
uh,
2B when I first joined and 2B now, like I said, are completely different.
uh,
When I went back there a month and a half ago, I just didn't have that spark. I didn't have the spark that I had years ago. Plus, a lot of my friends are on Constantium. You know, I've built a good relationship with many older and senior players, and it's something I don't want to lose. You know, because those type of relationships, especially in a block game and on an anarchy server, you know, they're priceless.
uh, you don't always find that group, and it's
No,
better to
absolutely not.
keep them close and keep that friendship strong. You know.
Absolutely, and I'll be honest with you, I've met some absolute gems of people, you know. At the moment, I'm basing in several bases with people like Sabbath, East German, Killian, OG Cult, Yoko. Those Maximum Crest, those people are replaceable.
Are those all separate bases, or are they just? Is it hard to kind of manage, or is it mainly one big group operation to where you guys are a bit
They
more
would
spread
be
out?
separate groups.
Yeah.
They're separate groups, but a lot of those groups include the same people. Like at the moment, I think I'm in like 4 different bases at the moment. They're run by different people, but you know, it's more or less got the same people in each base, but each base has a different goal, a different vision.
Any major projects that you're working on now that are a lot of different smaller projects, maybe?
Small bits and pieces here and there, you know, nothing major. I don't really take part in spawn projects anymore.
No.
As I find them tiring. I know there is a couple of spawn projects ongoing. There's one project ongoing at the minute I don't want to talk about in case it potentially could get leaked. But more than likely it will become public knowledge in the next couple of months, but we will see whenever that happens.
Yeah, it'll be exciting to hear about when that is released. And
yeah, you know, it's a publicly known project, but it's not one you would openly talk about.
True. And certain affiliations I want to bring up is Foreign.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say anything about that?
Look, I'll be honest, Fornicator and I, for a long time, we always had a very respectful relationship, you know. Albert being a good friend of his and being a good friend of mine. But there were certain incidents then happened over time and grapes that, you know, started relationships between us. Plus, you need to remember, if I am right in saying this, and I've heard this from quite a few people, Fornicator and Jar 2013 are very good friends in real. You know, so Forn, he was chill back when I first got to know him. But I think at this point, he's a different guy to what I previously knew.
So the relationship with Forn just kind of turned sour, is what you would say.
Yeah,
and it wasn't the same, you know, Forn that you first met or first were talking to.
No.
Okay. Was there any major turning points with that relation that you can recall, or was it mainly just a group of things that just so led to your certain thoughts on him as a person now?
I'll be honest, I think it was just multiple
instances.
Things happened over time, you know.
All right, another person I want to bring up is Cuboid. Your affiliations with him?
So Cuboid and I go back quite a while. Again, always a very respectful relationship. I had a lot of time for Cuboid. especially August 2022. And I can put that date, I can. That date was around the time my father passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
So, Cubite and I had been very friendly previous to that. Funny, Card Finder and I had previously found one of Cubite's 2018 bases. So that's how Cubite and I first got to know each other. Talking over different Discords, voice chats, meeting up at different events. So it was in August 2022, after my father passed away, that Cubite, obviously I was in a very low place in life. Cubite extended olive branch out to me and invited me to a brilliant base, a base called Space Salt Mines, which is now sadly grieved. Cubite and I would have a lot of mutual friends. Again, relationships soured. A lot of that was down to other people and their relationships with Cubite, and obviously, you have to stick up for your friends. So when I seen some of that tension ongoing, obviously the relationship between Cubite and I fell apart. But look, I have the utmost respect for Cubite and everything he has done on the server, but I don't agree with some of the people that he is now affiliated with on 2B2T.
And you just don't want to be affiliated with whoever he's affiliating with, pretty much.
Yeah. Yes and no.
Look,
he affiliates with some good people, but he also affiliates with some very bad people on that server. But look, that's 2B2T. Like I said earlier, I have no intention of returning there for now.
Sure. And finally, sorry.
I'll say one thing just on the topic of Cubite. We had a base down for your 26, and Cubite basically held our group to ransom. I'm personally a very high-ranking member of Dawnfear on Constantiam, and Cubite held us to ransom.
Do you think that was more of a loose threat, or was he actually, did he actually know the chords, or was it just, from how you know him personally, do you think he could have been just joking around, or was it a more serious matter to where he just couldn't maintain?
On a personal basis, it's hard to know. But I heard it from a very, very good source. Someone that is very deep into the 2B2T community, that Cubite did indeed have the cards. Now, again, this is all hearsay, and it's very easy for people to make up stories to blacken names. But it was that risk at that time that forced us to self-grief that base.
Alright, and sorry to hear about that grief on that base. I mean, was it kind of better to self-grief instead of just waiting it out, or?
Absolutely, it was better to self-grief.
I know for some people it can be difficult to self-grief just because all the attachments held to a certain base. But it gets to a point where it's kind of like, alright, we're gonna grief it and then we're gonna move on from this, and that's just one of those issue that there is. So
I'll be honest with you. I've learned my lesson from my 2B2T days. I've had many, many, many bases griefed, especially on 2B2T, when I was a member of the Imperial, sir, a long time ago. So, when you're going through that vicious cycle, you log on and your hard work's gone. So I think it was the better of the two evils. It was either get griefed and someone can make a very cloutish video, or else do it yourselves, and you've got that feeling of accomplishment. You've won over. You've won. You've beat them.
Very well said. And finally, your affiliations with Jimmy 8.
Jimmy Yip. I don't know where to start with Jimmy Yip. Look, there was a group briefly formed in Constantiam called Crowd Control. Okay? And Jimmy Yip was part of it, as was a player called Constantiam. And I'll just keep this very, very short. Constantiam doxed Jimmy Yip. And the rest of us more or less had to pay. Look, Jimmy Yip at the start was a chill, good kid. Got doxed. And yeah, I don't know what happened that day.
Alrighty.
But look, that's all I'm really going to say about Jimmy Yip.
Okay. And any enemies that you've made along the road, or current enemies?
No, not really. Look, at the end of the day, you need to remember this is a block game.
Yeah.
So it's slightly foolish to go around making enemies. Of course, everyone isn't going to be your friend. No real enemies. Obviously, there's people I don't talk to. All for different reasons. Briefly, the Imperials had me as their number one enemy. They were offering, I believe there was a bounty at one point, for information about me. Real information. But look, I dealt with that myself. I spoke to them personally. The whole doxing thing, Constantiam, Jimmy Yip, look, part of that, the Imperials were slightly involved with their two Reclamation, who was the Imperial leader. He got doxed. I got the blame for a while. But look, I spoke to Reclamation. I got the breeze. So look, I have no real enemies that I know of.
Would you say that's where the falling out of your association with Imperials began?
Oh God, no.
Or it was way before that?
Look, I've had an association with Imperials since 2018. There was a server back in 2018 called Newfag, okay? And it was run by Mr. CK, Gamerman, Merc, whatever you want to call him, who was the founder back then of Imperials. So that was my first proper taste of anarchy, Newfag. Then I went, bought Priority Queue, logged on to Constantiam around the same time. I was in several groups. I was in a group called the Resistance, which were very famous during the Russia War on TV. And the Resistance and Imperials merged together. So naturally I joined the Imperials, was with them for a few months, until the whole pedo LARPer drama happened on 2B2D. Obviously, I was disgusted. A good friend of mine then, David Pryden, they used him as a scapegoat. Look, and I linked a couple of Imperial bases to the BSB, the Backstreet Boys, Diggin Builder and his crew. So Imperials kept me coming around the time of lockdown. You know, Salsi 1 Anarchy server started up. So I joined it. Imperials let me back in. I fell out with Imperials again. Went back to 2B. Again, was part of Imperials. Left Imperials, became their Centurion, which was their leader. I said many, many times to Brooke Zebra, look, let's come to Constantiam. They didn't do it to maybe about a year and a half ago. Can't really remember. And I started helping the Imperials. But once I seen the direction they were going, I didn't agree with it, especially when the French invasion happened. You know, I didn't like the direction they were going, especially with their whole neo-Nazi stuff. I was heavily against that. So, yeah, look, that was also part of the falling out between Imperials and I. To this day, but we haven't mended that bridge, and probably we will never mend that bridge.
That's one bridge that's fallen and seems will never be reconnected.
More than likely, no.
And speaking of, just falling outs, is there a hatred of French players for you on the server?
Look, if you go back to my 2B2T time, there was a player called Fuse-Toi. He was a French YouTuber. So Fuse, he invaded 2B2T with what he called Team Baguette. So Fuse, I distinctly remember being in the Nether, maybe the day that Fuse invaded, and building what they called the French Frere, which was literally going round Nether, spamming the highways with buckets of lava from the roof, to burn any player trying to escape. So go forward a couple of years to when they invade Constantiam. Yeah, it was a natural enemy.
And speaking of the French, there seems to be another influx of French-speaking players. And do you have any idea on what to do about it?
No, look, from those players, some of those players, like Flandre, I have no problem with that guy.
No.
Some of them have actually had a positive influence on the server. So, no, look, I'm at a stage now, I don't really care. If they want to come and play, absolutely. But, it's give and take. You just don't come to a new community and expect everything to be given to you. There has to be a bit from both sides.
Very true. Very well said. And your general opinions on the server and how they changed over time. The many hours put in and the time spent. Was it worth it?
Oh, God. How many hours? I honestly don't know. I would need to check my main account plus my alts.
The whole player.
I run four accounts on there at any one time, so they've all got different statistics. I think my main account has something like 9 or 10 million netherrack mined.
Wow.
Something crazy like that. So I've put in a lot of hours, but I wouldn't change it. Especially that digging to the world border, meeting new friends, some of the people that I've met, some of the bases I've been to. I wouldn't change it. Definitely, it's a lot more relaxing than 2B2T is. So,
especially with just how kind of chill the chat is, you don't ever notice too much spam or a bunch of advertising of like random kit shops or anything. And
kit shops is more of a 2B2T thing.
Yeah. And other thing I was gonna say is, crap, I just lost it. But let's see here. So the connections you make along the way, those are really gonna stick with you the most compared to if you're just not getting involved, not really working on anything server wise. So with that being said, do you have like a favorite achievement on the server?
Favorite achievement? It's hard to know. I think if I was to say my greatest achievement, naturally people would say, oh, digging to the world border. Look, that is an achievement in itself. But I think, personally, my biggest achievement would be the friends I've met along the way. As cliche as that sounds, I've met some brilliant people. Some of them, unfortunately, no longer play. Some of them still do play. But I think some of the friends I've met along the way is the biggest achievement. And I played a lot of faction servers, medieval servers, etc. over the years. And, those are tight-knit communities. But to get to a stage now where, especially in an anarchy server, that I can turn around and, go into many discords and instantly be invited to to a base or be invited to an event, or just nice, chill conversations, is an achievement in itself. So I think the friendships and bonds that I've built, that is my biggest achievement.
Very well said. And do you have any future plans moving forward, or just any, like, how are you spending your time nowadays?
Just there today, I arrived at a base, so we'll see what happens there. Look, I've many plans in my head. Look, I've got some great guys, especially the Vale guys.
No.
Your East German, your Sobel, your Maximum Chris, Yuko, OG Cult, Killian.
Yeah, the next
I think
interview.
I'm forgetting someone. But those guys, especially Sabbath, those guys they're gems. So probably down the road, we will do a lot more together. I think East Germany, we were talking about having an Irish-themed base. Now, when that will be, I'm not sure.
No. Well, yeah, that's very good to hear. And there will be the upcoming Gooncast with the Val, so everyone will get to hear more about that when that releases.
Yeah, but look, the Vale, I'll put it this way, the Vale was a loose collective of like-minded people that were brought together by circumstances such as crowd control that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Unity also, I forgot about that. Unity, it's a Constantiam's version of 2B2T's incursions. And then also the events with Jimmy Ape and Kofa Chan, Fornicator, there were many different driving factors that drove us guys together. And we have gone through 3-4 bases at this point. Our last base, unfortunately, Fornicator, I believe, did try to grief it.
No.
And Kofa Chan tried to grief the ruins, which was a big L on him because we done a huge self-grief. So, yeah.
And speaking of crowd control and unity, is there anything you want to say just about the importance of it to you and maybe the current state of it?
Look, both of those groups, crowd control is currently in hibernation, if you want to say. Unity only happens once in a blue moon. It only happens when it needs to happen. So, look, there's nothing happening there with those two groups. The discords still exist, but at the moment, whoever's in those discords, there are other discords with me. So that connection, that unity, pardon the pun, if you want to call it that, that's not broken.
No.
So if hypothetically speaking, someone wanted to call for another unity, it could happen in 35 minutes. And before you know it, there's a full-blown discord with guys planning to a T what we're going to do next.
No. And would you like to go further on about your past? Oh, no, never mind. We already covered this one with the past experience with Imperials. But, so let's see. The next thing I can go for is... Okay, so is there anything you might like to address or want the people to know about you and make public?
No, look, anything basically about me is already, it's already on the wiki. It's very easy to go into the wiki. And there's quite a lot of information on me.
Okay, so there's no misinformation about anything in the wiki or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
It's everything that's in the wiki about me has either been written by myself or by my good friend Maximum Chris.
Okay, that's good to hear, I guess. And let's see here. So the Constantiam presidential run with Vice President East German on the death of the Imperials. How did that turn out? How did that go for you? And
It turned out a lot better than we expected. But East German and we knew we were never going to win. So us joining in to that presidential race, that was more of we were making a statement. That's all it was. We didn't have a big campaign. We didn't have map boards. We didn't have a campaign base like other people did. We didn't have official discords like other groups had. It was more just to show, make a statement to the Constantiam player base that F Imperials, we don't care about them.
No.
When it came to the actual debate, it was pure timing. I believe, I was going away somewhere with my wife that day. So I had given a statement to the organisers to read out on my behalf. Now, the statement I originally gave, they wouldn't read it out because they said it was too long.
Yeah.
So I gave a condensed version, and that's what you hear during the debate.
And with you being married, is it true that Sapit was the best flower girl ever?
Look, Sapit is the best Polish-speaking flower girl. I had invited Sapit to my wedding, but I think, obviously, with the distance between Slovakia and Ireland, he wasn't really, not that it's only, an hour and a half in the plane. He wasn't willing to make that journey. But the other side of the coin is, how would I explain that to my wife?
Yeah. might raise some arguments further down the line.
Yeah, look, my wife knows that I play Main Man. I've been playing it since 2012 or 2013, so you're talking, over a decade now?
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't get playing as much as I used to now with being married, and look, I work full-time as a factory manager. That's a well-known fact. So I'd be in bed early, I'd be up early, so it's only the weekends really that I have the luxury of getting online. But at the same time, I need to balance that out with family life. So it's a difficult juggling act.
Do you manage it pretty well? And that's good to hear. At least you get a little bit of balance. Just balance. Juggling all that and having that all on your plate. And some other things. Let's see. So pikey meme. I don't know what this means, but hopefully you can explain it.
Could you repeat the question, please?
So I just have written down pikey meme, and what it means, I'm not too sure.
Okay, so pikey meme. In England, the travelling community, gypsy community, whatever you want to call them, are called piggies. So, as a joke, a friendly joke between Killian, East German, Boucher, and myself. Sorry, I forgot to mention Boucher also. He's a VLOG, a great guy. Anyway, so between the four of us, we call each other piggies. So we're calling each other gypsies, but it's just a friendly joke.
And when I spoke to East German, he said that some members were pikeys, and not to invite them to the interview or whatever. So, but East German did say you're a good man deep down. And
look, East German and I are brilliant friends. East German has a heart of gold, really. Him and there's another player I haven't really spoken to in a while. We used to be brilliant friends. Look, she went her way, I went my way. That would be Welch, aka Atsana. A great base mate of mine once upon a time, but look, she went her way. I got to know her through East German a couple of years ago. So, the friendship between East German and I has been very, very valuable. I've met some brilliant people through him and vice versa. So definitely
Yeah.
a real gem
Yeah,
to
I
have on your
was a
side.
bit on the edge about doing the Gooncast with you, but East German really solidified it, because I wasn't sure if it was gonna happen. I was just the way you were typing in chat. I was like, oh, should I do it? It might turn out terrible, but I think this turned out pretty great, and
Thank you.
I'm glad.
No, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me here.
Of course. And another question is the alcoholics of Constantiam have a question, and would like to know your favorite alcoholic drink or beverage.
It depends. Normally, being Irish, over here there's a beer called Harp. So I'll post pictures quite a lot on the Vale Discord of pints of Harp. So if I'm not drinking pints of Harp, I normally drink gin. Gin mixed with pineapple. If I'm not drinking that, I'd say my favourite beverage would be Redbreast whiskey. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous whiskey. It's made by Jameson here in Ireland.
And would you say you have a healthy relationship with alcohol, or I mean,
look,
some can over abuse, but as being Irish, it's just a part of the culture as well. But do you ever
look?
think?
I've been drinking nearly 20 years. I had my first alcoholic drink when I was 14. Okay?
And yeah.
Look, I went to university. I drank a lot there. I done a master's again. I drank a lot. But over the years, personally, outside of my man and family life, I'm a factory manager, so I have quite a lot of staff under me. And obviously that job entails I have a duty of care, so I can't be coming in hungover or drunk, So look, I have a very healthy relationship with alcohol. On a Friday night, after a long, hard week, I'll buy a few cans of beer and maybe have a glass of whiskey too. On a Saturday night, it depends. Last night, me and my friends went to Belfast. Again, quite a good bit of drink. But look, I'm fresh. I'm ready for the day. Well, the day is nearly over at this stage. But
and by the time
it depends. It depends on the person.
Yeah,
some people can handle alcohol better than others, and I think it's just over time. My body has taken a certain tolerance, if you get what I mean, to alcohol.
And so it's not like you're necessarily chasing the dragon on just trying to get the most fucked up, I'm assuming. Because I know that some people, they're just like their genes, they can't really handle it too well and stuff like that. So
look, I don't get drunk. I don't drink to get drunk.
Yeah, that's good, Because just in my personal life,
if I go to the pub, I might have 7-8 pints of beer, but I'm fine. It's like I said, I've built a certain tolerance over the years. But when I go to the pub, I like to sit down, relax, shoot the breeze, maybe watch whatever sport's on, have a bit of fun with old friends. That's all it is. I don't drink for the sake of drinking and getting fucked up, like you said.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Well, all right, I think, would you like to conclude it here? Is there anything else you might like to say?
Yeah, just like to conclude with, again, a shout out to all my good friends and people that I've met over the years. Some we've already spoken about in here. We talked about sour relationships. I'll just say it's nothing personal. What happened in the past, and hopefully in the future we can mend bridges. All
right, good to hear it, and thanks for joining me on the second episode of the Gooncast. We got the Val builders up next, so that'll be interesting. But all right, we'll wrap it up here. And goodbye, Gooners.